Creativity and community are absolutely vital in challenging times. Welcome to Syncreate, a show where we explore the intersections between creativity, psychology, and spirituality. We believe everyone has the capacity to create. Our goal is to demystify the process and expand the boundaries of what it means to be creative. We talk with visionaries and change makers and everyday creatives working in a wide range of fields and media, from the arts to science, technology, and business. We aim to illuminate the creative process from imagination to innovation and everything in between. I'm Melinda Rothaus, and I help individuals and organizations bring their dreams and visions to life.
I'm Charlotte Gullick, and I'm a writer, educator, and writing coach. We are the co-authors of a book on the creative process, also called Syncreate. At Syncreate, we're here to support your creative endeavors. If you have an idea for a project or a new venture, and you're not sure how to get it off the ground, find us at syncreate.org. Our book, now available in both print and audiobook format, walks you through the stages of the creative process so you can take action on your creative goals. We offer resources, creative process tools, and coaching to help you bring your work to the world, including our monthly creativity coaching group. We'd be delighted for you to join us. We'd also love to hear your feedback on the show. Please drop us a line at info@syncreate.org. We're looking for feedback on how we can improve the show, what's resonating for you, and what future topics you'd like us to cover.
Welcome back, everyone, to our podcast quickies, as we call them, our Creative Spark episodes. And in this episode today, I wanted to share a little bit about this article that I've been working on for a very long time, which is connected to a course that I teach at Saybrook University on creativity, individuation, and depth psychology, DEPTH. So the depths of psychology, kind of Jungian psychology. And I've been teaching this class for several years now, and it sort of inspired this article, which, as you know, Charlotte, has been a very long journey for me. I've been working on it for about a year and a half, like really diligently, and I've gone through many, many revisions. We were talking in our last Creative Spark episode about this journey of putting ourselves out there. I've submitted it a couple times for publication, and the first time they wanted me to make so many changes to it that I just didn't feel comfortable. So I thought I would just keep shopping it around. And then I submitted it to, most recently, the Journal of Possibility Studies, and went through peer review, got some good feedback and some scathing feedback. That was kind of intense. And so for the past, I don't know, like 3 or 4 months, I've been working on revising it more, and finally finished it and submitted it, and it was accepted. So it should be published anytime now. And it is about kind of the role of creativity and meaning in psychological development across the lifetimes. So how do we use our creativity to make meaning of our experiences in service of psychological growth and development? And we sometimes talk about individuation as the journey to wholeness. And so, creativity I see it really as an end unto itself. Often we think about creative products or things we see out there in the world, but creativity is also extremely useful just as a personal process of making sense of our lives and our experiences, particularly difficult experiences, whether that's through journaling or art making or music or, no one ever has to see it. But, the whole field of like art therapy and expressive arts is based on this idea that we can process things through artistic and creative means that maybe we can't necessarily do in other ways, right?
Can I say that another way? And maybe
Yeah.
you just said it. So it's like creativity is one of the pathways that we have towards wholeness
Yes.
and meaning making.
Yes.
Mhm.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and the idea here is that I just did another episode with Lama Dorje, the Tibetan Lama that I went to India with last year, and Carolina, his assistant and translator. And we were talking about the Dharma and how we have to start with ourselves, but ultimately it's about being of benefit to other
Mhm.
people. And this was also kind of the gist of the article. It's our creativity can help expand and deepen our connection to ourselves and then in turn to others, because the more we've been through in our lives, difficult experiences, just the more life we live, the more that we're able to empathize with others and potentially be of benefit to them. And so the idea here is that taking time to self-reflect
Mhm.
through whatever means we might have available, um, the more that we reflect on our experiences and maybe channel them towards something creative, the more we help ourselves and the more capacity we may have to then be of benefit to others.
Is it like I'm thinking of another reframing it, it's like the ways that we explore our knowing
Mhm.
through our creative meeting mediums, um, brings us more depth to the way that we know ourselves and that self that we bring to others.
Absolutely. And I'm just thinking about, like, I'm sure you experience this as a writer and your students. Sometimes when we start writing our story, like we did in our coaching group the other day, we've experimented with a prompt, which was to write a 5-line memoir
Mhm.
and then to do it all over again in a totally different way. But it's like, sometimes it requires reflecting on our experiences or writing our stories or sharing our stories in some other way in order to actually be able to understand and make sense of what's happened to us in our lives.
And I don't think the right word is metabolize, but it somehow what you're talking about, like sitting with, and then what is the creative way that that can be moved or expressed. Um, and if I didn't read the whole article, but I will, and it's amazing. But to think about like that it is, if I understand what you're talking about, like over our lifetimes, like it's a whole meaning making journey. It's not just one moment, but it's a companion.
Yes. And the way I see it, and I think this is really important, I think in our culture, we have this idea that we kind of like, we start out as children, we become like young adults, and then at some point we like peak, and then it's all kind of like downhill from there.
Mhm.
In whereas in more traditional cultures, there's so much respect for elders because of the
Mhm.
experiences they've had. And it's not like you're over the hill, you have nothing left to offer. It's like the elders are the backbone of the community because they have so much wisdom to share. And I think from this particular point of view, our evolution just continues. It doesn't just like we get there and then we're done. Right? And so I think it also gives a sense of meaning to maybe, as we're progressing throughout our lives, rather than this idea that, once we get to middle age, that like that's kind of it or whatever. It's like, no, this process keeps growing and unfolding, and we can keep creating and deepening our relationship to ourselves and to each other as long as we're on this planet.
Yeah, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Shall we move into pro tip, or is that too soon?
Yeah, no, it's good. So, so the pro tip is to find a way essentially to reflect and make meaning of your experience, your kind of life journey up to this point. This is an exercise that I have my students do in the class. And one way of going about that is to create a collage or vision board of your life journey so far, including the good, the bad, and the ugly, the highlights and the lowlights, because it's all, and this is another piece of this idea, is that it's all fuel for the fire, and sometimes we grow and learn the most from our difficult and painful experiences, more so than just when things are great. Right. And so finding a way to depict that visually, or maybe it's digitally, right?
Hmm.
Um, to kind of a way to kind of like reflect on where we've been and what we've learned and what wisdom we've gained. And then where do we want to continue to evolve
With depth.
with depth? Yes. Find and connect with us on YouTube and social media under Syncreate. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and leave us a review. And again, we'd love to hear from you. So if you have feedback on any of our episodes, you've tried out the pro tips, you have thoughts on potential guests or topics, please drop us a line.
We're recording today at Record ATX Studios in Austin with Charlotte, me joining us from the Hudson Valley. The podcast is produced in collaboration with Mike Osborne at 14th Street Studios. Thanks so much for being with us, and see you next time.